They tried to end their life, but it didn't work. When I walked into the room with the doctor, their leg was missing and they couldn't talk because after their attempt, they laid on the ground for hours, pressing on their leg, cutting circulation off and killing it. When a part of your body dies, a blood clot can form, and it did, and it traveled to his brain and killed the area that lets him speak. If there was meaning to life, I think a lot of us would think, what's the greater purpose? What's the positivity? I don't see anything that could possibly be worth losing your leg, your speech, your independence for. So, as sad as this is to say, I think it's all meaningless. Life has no meaning. I wonder how many of you are thinking, then what's the point of living life? If there's no purpose, why don't we just end it? The best way to answer that is to look at your actions. If we did agree right now that life is meaningless, you wouldn't end it. You'd keep living and you'd find a purpose for yourself. So nothing really changes. I'm sure that if you saw that person lying on the ground, you'd still try to save them. You would have called 911. And the doctors, even without a salary, they do everything in their power, amputate the leg, whatever, to save that person. So the answer to the question is that life in and of itself matters. I'm out here enjoying the weather, talking to you, not because it leads anywhere or there's a grand purpose, but because living itself is what matters. Life doesn't need meaning to matter. We save the patient for the sole fact that it is a life. Let's strip away the meaning and emotions and get to the logic of why life is meaningless first, and at the end, why it makes life a million times more precious. Imagine a salmon is just swimming in the water, and out of nowhere, it gets snatched by a bear, traumatically pulled out of the water. The bear bites into the salmon and starts skinning it alive. It didn't even have time to comprehend what's going on before the bear clamps on its head and erases the fish out of existence. We could argue that the fish's life and death had effects, so it was meaningful. When it was alive, it played a role in its environment. When it died, the insects celebrated. They had one less salmon to worry about, and the bear got its meal. So of course, yeah, things changed because it existed. But that's not what I mean by meaning. I'm not talking about effects in the world. I'm talking about a deeper philosophical purpose, a purpose for the fish's existence. It never asked what its purpose was. It never wondered if its life mattered. It lived because it was alive. And it fought and wiggled in the bear's jaw to get back in the water because that's what living things do. There was no meaning behind its death. It just happened. Now imagine the same thing happened to a human. Random death, no warning, no reason, just mauled to death. A lot of people wouldn't accept that as the horrifying truth that it is. They'd start protecting themselves from reality because humans are different. We're conscious. We're conscious enough to ask about God, about purpose, about destiny, about our story. And when no answers show up, we make them up because a mind that can imagine its own erasure can't handle meaninglessness. When I die, it's for a greater purpose. It was meant to be. I'm going to a better place. This death isn't terrible. It's just a plan. And at the end of it is a bright light of positivity. It's a beautiful lie. And if you believe it, it might be a beautiful life too. But you'd have to believe you're better than a salmon. And that's where evolution tells us we're really not that different. I know it's hard for a lot of people to believe that we descended from fish. They look nothing like us. And anybody with common sense would laugh at that. But those same people would laugh if I told them a heavy rock would hit the ground at the same time as a much lighter stick. Y'all hear that? That's Dr. Physics laughing because she said so. Common sense turns out to be wrong a lot in science. We have thousands and thousands of pieces of evidence that say evolution is real and that we descended from a single ancestor. I'd love to explain it some more, but that's not the point of the video. If you didn't understand it, it doesn't mean it's wrong. Just like you might not understand why the heavier rock hit the ground at the same time, it doesn't mean it won't happen or that it's not true. So if you're still confused, just accept the fact for now and try to understand it later. Over time, our brains got bigger, they got more complex, and that complexity gave us consciousness. It allows us to reflect, think about the future, ask why. But those questions don't come from meaning, they come from a smarter brain just doing what it evolved to do, and that is think. So just like the fish had no meaning in its life or death, neither do we. We're not here for something, we're here because we're alive, and living is the thing that we experience. Meaning isn't built into life, it's something smarter animals look for after the fact. So if life doesn't have meaning, where does that leave us? Did I just make your life worse by watching this video? Not at all. If anything, after the first wave of sadness, it should make you value life even more because this is all you have. Every minute you're alive happens only once and then it's gone forever. There's no grand plan coming later to give it meaning. And when something only happens once, it becomes priceless. Life is extraordinarily rare. 99% of all species that have ever lived are extinct. The fact that any of us are here, that the universe even exists, is a statistical miracle. We decide value by rarity. That's why gold matters. And by that standard, life is the most valuable thing that's ever existed. Every minute we're alive is more valuable than gold, than anything we've ever learned to protect. That's why medicine saves people, even if they're incapacitated or they can't communicate, not because life leads anywhere, not because there's a lesson coming later, but because something this rare deserves to be protected. After that, they can decide whatever they want, but every minute of life is worth saving. We're really not that much different from this guy. We're both lives. We're both alive, made of DNA, RNA, all the same material, all the same atoms. The only difference is I have consciousness and it doesn't. So killing it is the same as killing a human, in a sense, as weird as that might sound. Lives are lives. You're not that much different from a cow and that insect.